members, good afternoon, members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm Senator Megan Hunt, MEGAN-HUNT, and I represent District 8 in the northern part of Midtown Omaha. And today I'm here to introduce LB846, which would adopt the Bedbug Detection and Treatment Act. This bill might look familiar to some of you. Some of you haven't seen it before, but Senator Wayne introduced a similar bill in the past, in 2020, and that bill went to Urban Affairs at the time because it just dealt with cities of the metropolitan class. And also Senator Wayne is kind of a master at drafting a bill to go to the committee he wants it to go to, and he was chairing that committee, so it was a good place for that to end up at the time. But to me, you know, this is a landlord-tenant issue. It's not a city issue, so we kind of drafted it to keep that in mind, and so here I am in Judiciary talking about it, but if this sounds familiar to you, that's why. So LB846 would adopt the Bedbug Detection and Treatment Act. The purpose of this bill is to clearly codify the rights and responsibilities of landlords and tenants when a bedbug situation arises. Basically, it provides that 1, landlords cannot offer for rent units known to contain bedbugs and must disclose information about recent infestations and inspections to prospective tenants upon request. Basically, if you're a landlord and you know you've got bedbugs, you can't rent that, and if there's been bedbugs, you've got to disclose that. 2, tenants must promptly notify the landlord of a known or suspected bedbug problem in their unit in writing and comply with reasonable measures to allow for inspection and treatment of bedbugs. So that's putting responsibility on the tenant and some protections for the landlords and saying, if you know you've got an infestation, you got to tell your landlord. And 3, landlords are responsible for promptly inspecting for and treating any bedbug infestation and are liable for those costs, but they would not be liable to damages to tenants' personal property, paying for alternative lodging, or the cost of treatments and inspections if the tenant is non-compliant. So, you know, trying to kind of strike a balance here. We know that in Nebraska, in Lincoln and Omaha specifically, we have a lot of problems with bed bugs. Orkin, which is, you know, a bed bug and pest treatment company, they released a list of like the top cities in the country for bed bug infestations, and Omaha is actually in the top 50. Bed bugs are a public health issue. They disproportionately impact low-income households. And a 2020 study, when this bill was last introduced, found that low-income households are 8 to 12 times more likely to have a bed bug infestation than middle or upper-income households. And this effect also applies in areas with higher eviction rates. The negative impacts of a bed bug infestation are wide-ranging. For families living in an infested home, 81% report psychological effects due to stress and stigma associated with bed bugs. Having bed bugs are associated with anxiety, sleep disturbances, depression. Kids can miss school, parents can miss work, and families that already struggle to make ends meet probably have to throw out a lot of their belongings. For landlords, it's not easy either. There's stigma, there's fear of eviction, there's the cost liability that prevents tenants from coming forward about infestations, and that's a serious threat to their property value. It increases the likelihood that this problem will spread to other units that they own. And it's also possible that the tenants could attempt to fix it themselves, to do some self-treatment, not have it work, and the problem just continues to get out of hand. As the law stands today without LB846, many predominantly lower-income tenants do not have the money for professional pest control services and are disincentivized to report a problem to their landlord before it becomes more widespread among the community. To get ahead of something in my introduction here that I think we might hear from opponent testifiers today, if there are any here, is based on most of the copied and pasted comments that were submitted from opponents to the bill. And there's a sentiment among the group that, quote, bed bugs are always brought into the building by tenants, and that it is therefore unfair that the landlord should be expected to pay for a problem induced by the tenant. This is verbatim from the email blast that was sent out and included in most of the submitted comments online. I want to say that this type of statement, that bed bugs are always brought in by the tenants, is ignorant. The Environmental Protection Agency states that it's a myth that bed bugs are drawn to dirt and grime. It's not because you've got dirty tenants, and this is a pretty discriminatory view to hold, actually. Bed bugs are drawn to human blood. They don't discriminate between types of people with that, and they're drawn to carbon dioxide. And we have an entomologist here who can speak more to this, but I heard from a longtime environmental specialist who wanted to come but couldn't come today due to illness, and he wrote to me today, bed bugs hitchhike on clothing, book bags, purses, furniture, luggage after a trip, and even from friends that may visit. One could even get them from the chair in a waiting room, or a place that many people visit like public transit, a movie theater, a library, or even in their place of work or from a coworker. So really it's just as plausible that any visitor, or even the landlord themselves, or a worker in the building can bring a bed bug in, and trying to assign blame to the tenants is not only implausible, I feel it's discriminatory and it's kind of a waste of time, and it avoids getting to the underlying problem that we're trying to address. What LB846 is about is getting a handle on the problem for the benefit of the landlord, the benefit of the tenant, and for the benefit of the public health in the community. Before I wrap this up, I also wanted to uplift another comment that was submitted from Restoring Dignity, which is an Omaha nonprofit that serves refugees. Their executive director wrote that in the last 12 years, their organization has been in the homes of hundreds of low-income refugee families who are suffering from bedbug infestations, and that the overwhelming majority of these tenants, mainly refugees, they moved into units that were already infested by bedbugs. They weren't informed of this by the landlord ahead of time. The landlord has not been willing to pay for treatment. And the executive director further wrote that they've received calls from local schools asking what can be done because these kids are bringing bedbugs to the school and then they're spreading in the school. They're coming in their backpacks, they're coming in their clothes, all of this stuff. And then it causes further infestations. They've got to clean the school. They've got to get bedbug folks into the school to clean all of that out. It's going home with other kids. So that's a real life example of something that's literally happening in Omaha to some of our most vulnerable neighbors, in the refugee community, but then that spreads to everybody else too. It's because some landlords aren't doing the right thing. They're not disclosing that there's a bedbug infestation, and they're being willing to rent out spaces that they know are infested, which is putting a bunch of families at risk and allowing the bedbugs to be transported all over the place. So I wanted to have this apply statewide because while it's true that they're more prone to rapidly spreading in places with higher population, like the great metropolis of Omaha, Nebraska, but anywhere that there are bed bugs, whether you're in a rural area or a mid-sized town, I think that Nebraskans deserve the same uniform legal protections regardless of where they live. I think it's only fair that tenants who are renting a new place, that they know what they're walking into, that landlords take responsibility for their spaces, and also that if a tenant knows that there may be bed bugs here, that there may be a new infestation, that they report that to the landlord so that they can, protect the value of their property, basically. I think you will hear from a variety of people today. We have an expert entomologist here with the University Extension, who I'm really grateful for, and she can probably answer, I can talk about the bill, but she's really an expert on the issue. And I think we have some fair housing advocates here, and I assume we have landlords here, but I will turn it over to them. But I'm happy to answer any of your questions if you have any at this time.